And we should be live. Let me go ahead and check. Yes, we are in fact live. Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. A's here. Joined here today with returning guest Orososium.
Hey, people.
And today we are back with more Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron. Salon Lich says, yay indeed. We are back to some more good Star Wars. That said, this is, well, Oros, do you remember how things ended last issue?
Fuck. No, I don't.
It got very, shall we say, Sweet Home Alabama at the end of the last issue.
Oh, wait. No, I remember. The closing.
Cruelessa says, beep assault in progress. Beep day 2 must kick in. Alright. Uro says, hey, people. So let's go ahead and jump right in and see where it happened since we left. Actually, let's see if there's anything. Nope. Okay. I'm guessing that's Wedge there, so that would be you voicing him if you want.
Okay. I don't remember what voice I gave him, so I am going to try my best. Says that the Tubasaur is a distant cousin to the dewback.
That's so. I thought the dewback family was only native to dry worlds like Tatooine or Parika.
Do I do this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And the dewback is docile to Ford. They well known for that. But at Tubasaur World, the stable master says that the Tubasaur were transported to Atoll specifically for sport. Apparently they adapt quickly to harsh environments. In a matter of time, they had destroyed the local predators and moved to the top of the food chain. The Tubasaur went from being tame domestic animals to cold-blooded predators. Take the band in their cover, for example. All the tones of their songs can be traced directly to natural songs of their homeworld, and can be worked out mathematically to the output of quantum reacts.
Did you hear that?
Though, you haven't heard a word I've said. Are you listening to me?
Of course I'm listening to you. With ears like mine, you think I have trouble hearing things?
Or, what is the matter? Why are you so jumpy?
Do you know what those Thurvosaurs can do? We walk into this force-forsaken swamp with no guide and no tracking devices, and you ask me why I'm so jumpy. Besides, I keep hearing something just out of earshot. I can't make it out. And as for under-vector music, they stink like tauntaun droppings. Yes, they do. Winner's King says, something decent, clear away the bad stuff. Kulessa says, thanks gods we don't have spaceships. Yes, the Halcyon Legacy spaceships.
The finest spaceship.
Brother Calcul says, hola amigos, it's election year in Swedistan. Hopefully things go decently in that election. Oro says, hey Calcul. Kulessa says, laughs in no election but cries more. I guess that's Hobby there, so do you want to voice him?
The alien, you mean?
No, Hobby's the other blonde dude. So Tycho's one blonde dude, and Hobby...
I think that is a woman.
Maybe? Yeah,
looking
she
down.
is. Yes, she is. I guess I can voice her, and you voice the alien.
Okay.
Can you believe it? Plura princess, and not one of her crewmates suspected.
I saw the nobility in her eyes. Oh shit, sån där. Okay. I saw the nobility in her eyes, and the moment I met her.
Such tragedy in Plur's life. Her family killed, a life on the run in fear of someone discovering her true identity, and now, Niren, why are you wearing that hat?
It's part of the traditional hunting uniform of the A-Town nobles. They worn it for generations. But how are they able to hunt in this outfit? I'll never know.
You know what I'm reminded of now, thanks to this? I'm reminded of, I think they're referred to, Italian soldiers, I think they're referred to as Bergerieri. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. But they were bicycle troops during World War One, and they also had some. Well, let me show you. Let me see if I can find a picture of the hat they wore, because it is very, very special.
When you mean bicycle or bike?
I mean bicycle.
That that doesn't sound right.
Oh, we're just getting started. So let's see if I can actually show. They still wear the feather, by the way, even on more modern uniforms, which is hilarious.
Well, some people like pain.
Yeah, but this is taking it to a whole new level. See if I can find an image of them, of their uniform, roughly around the time of World War One. Here we go.
Okay, let's see.
I'm going to share the image onto the stream here for you guys. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on it myself. There we go. So yeah, you can actually see this is the headgear that they would have been wearing. I think this might be a little bit older of an image. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, so. But yeah, this is the hat that they wore in that massive feather. This is their bicycle. This was their bicycle troops during the war.
This is an accident waiting to happen.
Oh, but wait, it gets even better. So they're supposed to be sharpshooters as well. Keep that in mind as they wear the giant feather. But one of the other things that they were known for being equipped with was, and prepare for this, they were being given the Villa Perosa. Now, are you familiar with firearms during World War One?
No, I am not.
The Villa Perosa is unique for being the world's first submachine gun. In 1915. It was designed for aircraft use. Here's the thing. It's a double-barrel design, and I'm going to put a link here as well so you can check this out because it's even more hilarious. They mounted them to their bicycles on the handlebar.
I don't find the words.
So, these guys were during the war could be described as bicycle snipers who were given SMGs on the handlebars of their bicycles.
I don't see this as a recipe for success. You know, I don't know. I maintain my opinion. I think this was a recipe for disaster.
Brother Cactus says, Battle Brothers, someone stole my motorbike. Well, that would be the case if this thing had a motor, but it didn't. So yeah, bicycle snipers. Now let me see if I can find an image of the more recent helmet and all that, just to let you know that yes, they are still wearing the feather, even in proper battle gear. They're still wearing the helmet here, or the feather. Here we go. Okay, and there we are. So yeah, third image. Let's go ahead and see how that looks. Yep.
Why?
Tradition. Which is kind of why it reminded me of, which is kind of why I got reminded of this from,
I mean, I understand tradition, but just for a second, imagine that this guy is perfectly camouflaged, you know? No one is going to see him. But then, fucking huge plumage out of nowhere. I don't know, man.
I mean, let me read some of the comments here. Adam says it was a leftover from the Napoleonic time. The hat also that gun was also used on bomber planes, but had to stop because they ran out of bullets too fast. Yeah, because okay, so the Villa Perosa can only hold 50 rounds when it's fully reloaded. It's got 2 magazines. Each magazine is 25 rounds. And it goes through them. Well, the Villa Perosa, I think it has a rate of fire of something like 1,800 rounds per minute or something ridiculous like that. So it goes through those 50 rounds. Yes.
It will not last that much.
Well, you'd carry multiple magazines, but even then, this thing would chew right through them. So yeah, they ended up starting to give them to ground troops, but they became very awkward to carry. What they did for a lot of them, from what I understand, was they actually cut a lot of them in half and turned them into the OVP 1918. Winner's King says, did they upgrade to Vespa snipers? That seems like the Italian thing to do. Cooleza says, I actually think bicycle troops are not too bad. In my opinion, motorcycles are good for hit and run. Well, yeah, but there was actually a time when bicycle troops did actually make some sense, because you don't have the logistical issue of needing to carry extra fuel. So in cases where supply lines are stretched or something like that, it does actually make sense. And in World War I, when even motorized vehicles were still fairly slow, a bicycle could actually get the job done at the time and still be somewhat competitive for the most part. It's actually interesting to note that pretty much by the 1890s, bicycle technology was pretty much perfected by the 1890s, more or less, which is why the whole gear system and whatnot, because I think it was the 1870s and 1880s that you had the penny farthings, or the bicycles that had the big fuck off wheels at the front and the little tiny wheel at the back. But the 1890s is when they switched out, so by that point, bicycle technology becomes standardized and all that. It's basically what I'm saying is the technology had pretty much been perfected by that point, while motorized vehicles were still fairly new, so it makes sense at the time anyways.
I mean, nowadays, unless you want silent transportation, and even then, we now have electric alternatives.
Brother Cackle says, man's wearing a chicken on his head. Winner's King says, supposedly the ostrich feather acts as a sun visor. Maybe? Adam says, well, that just looks silly. Gulessa says, why fashion, my dude? Fashion. Oros says, fashion kills people. Cool. Fashion. Winner's King says, horses are better than bikes, but take more time to train. Ace, are those your kids or Oros we're hearing in the background? Those would be Oros' kids, I think. Coolessa says, I honestly think doing a stream talking about stuff like this is more enjoyable than Disney picking on Star Wars. Agreed. Or says, that is people partying all... Okay. Alright, anyways. Speaking of fashionable uniforms, Oros, you're from Spain. Are you familiar with one of the military uniforms in use in Spain?
Which one specifically?
Trying to think the name of them. I think they might be a special forces group, but they have a very distinct uniform. And it's also how they wear it. Okay, I've got images of it.
I mean, if you mean the legionaries?
Maybe? Is it the ones with the, Is it the ones with the, Is it these guys?
Yes, those are the legionaries.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of, yeah. I will give him this. This is more of a Chad-looking uniform than anything.
Yep.
This is also the kind of uniform that I'd expect a certain genre of film to just run with and never look back.
Also, women do use the same uniform, but they put on it a bit more.
Aww.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, regulations.
There's one more I can show here real quick. I think it's some sort of palace guard or royal guard or something, but it's not from Spain. It's from Greece, sorry. But I'm not... Correct me if I'm wrong. Does Greece... I thought Greece was a republic these days. Oh, the Presidential Guard. That's what they're called. Also, the march that they gave them, it's like Monty Python decided to make... it's like they took the Monty Python's Silly Walks, Ministry of the Silly Walks, as inspiration for their march.
Let's see. Oh.
Here we go.
Those shoes.
I mean, to be fair, all these guys are more likely more badass than me or you, but still.
Yeah, but the looks don't cut it.
Coolessa says, Google Italy, please. Okay.
Okay, no, I need to look.
I'm kind of...
The first image I have, it looks like a fucking commissar.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
Well.
Service guarantees citizenship.
You were the not dog, the emperor. Just say.
So yeah, apparently Italian police uniforms. Alright, well, let's go ahead and continue before we piss off more people.
Yeah, we derailed this a little bit too much.
Coolessa says, it is war. Is it war if you're not showing the enemy your sharp dressing? It's not about dying, it's about sending a message.
Yeah, but I would prefer to send a message without dying. Should you say it?
Indeed. I mean, of course, I could always bring up the Papal Guard as another example. But that's more of a vintage uniform than anything. Because I think it's more, I mean, to be fair, so is a lot of the other stuff, I'm sure, but still. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
So that's probably hobby there, so that would be you. Okay.
This one, you voiced this one in the previous page.
I voiced the woman and I voiced Tycho. Tycho's a different character.
No. In the second page, it was this character, and you voiced him.
Well,
I voiced the guy with the black hair.
Okay, I thought the other guy was Wedge. Okay, never mind. All right, so I'll voice this character too. From what Wedge tells me, Count Pernan and Plur were betrothed when they were children. In the eyes of the state, they're married, but Plur doesn't quite see it that way.
It is her cousin. I don't know, you man. Well, you got that right. With all that has happened, you were fighting with the nobles. Her brother, Haran, leading the PLD. I think the last thing Flor needs is a husband. Even if he is a con.
If I know Plur, she can handle it, even if she needs to kick a little. Oh, that's Jansen. Never mind. Hey, Jansen. There's something going on in there. I'm hearing some strange stuff. I thought the stable keeper told you Thuvasauruses didn't like the deeper swamps.
Maybe there's something else.
You hear that?
Yeah, good. Hello?
Blasterfire, and if I'm not mistaken, Blasterfire with an imp ring to it.
Let's check it out.
May not be as good as a Thuvasaur pelt, but an imp will do. But an imp hide will do.
Oh, nice ship.
Son of a jumping! That's Wedge there in the brown coat there, so that would be you.
Okay. This is the site of the last People's Liberation Battalion attack.
How many were injured, Count Pernan?
Do I voice him?
Yep, you voice him.
Okay. 15 wars, an Imperial bunker. The attack happened during the transport of the Imperial payroll, so there were no civilians in the area. The terrorists made off with the payroll. The PLB used the money to the essential items back.
This has got to stop. My brother is leading our people to ruin.
Wedge here. I think this one is mine too.
Alright.
Yeah. We've stepped into something awful deep here. A nest of imps have us pinned down. They are all over us, Wedge. We can hold off the troopers and the tide. Hold tight, Jason. We are on our way. Pardon, you've got to get us to our X-Wings. My people are in trouble. Your comrades must have come across an Imperial patrol looking for PLB encampment.
Are they alright?
Not if we don't get to our wings and give them some air support. Not to worry, Captain Antilles. I shall hasten our pace.
Alright, so, Coolester says, is that an Eldar weapon I see? Some Inquisitor somewhere, I think. Not that cash money. Does it look like an Eldar weapon to you?
To be honest, a little bit, yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
But, you know, Games Workshop will never steal. Only take inspiration.
I knew it! I knew it! These ears don't lie. Why so jumpy, she says.
Carnal creature, you will be avenged.
Rin, what? Would you mind... Rin, would you mind too much trying to concentrate on the living?
There is not much detail, but I think that one is mine.
Okay.
Okay. Help is on the way.
Good, we sure could use some of that famous air support I've always heard about. That wasn't really what I had in mind.
Well, you didn't specify. Okay. My precious, I must protest.
Stow it, Ryle. I may be the princess of the realm, but I'm also a member of Rogue Squadron, and I intend to blast some imps.
Then I request to join the attack.
Absolutely not.
Sorry, Blue. Ryle flies with us. You might be his princess, but I lead Rogue Squadron. What are you flying? A Z-95 Headhunter.
A Z-95? Those things can't keep up with an X-Wing. You'll be a sitting Minoc.
Then I guess you'll have to protect me. The Z-95 is a good fighter, comparable to anything we have. Welcome on board.
I mean, the Z-95 was actually a good fighter, but it was obsolete by this point, which is why the Rebel Alliance went ahead and stole the X-Wings as soon as they could. I mean, we saw this in my live stream of Empire at War, but that's basically the gist of it.
Wasn't the C-95 the previous model to the X-Wing? The design is almost the same, except for the wings and the engines.
Yeah, I think it might have been, although it also... Yeah, I think it might have been, now that you mention it. It was a good starfighter, it's just, it was just... the thing is, it's a good starfighter from, I think, the Clone War eras, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it has some time.
Yeah.
But, hey, it only means that it is cheap, no?
I mean,
if
to
you
be fair...
know how to pilot it, it is good, I think.
To be fair, the Y-Wing is also a Clone Wars era design as well, so... Although that one saw some fairly extensive modifications during the time of the Rebel Alliance, so...
Yeah, if it is not good enough, just tweak it, modify it a bit.
So Coolessa says, Modern Arts and Fear Books, which is a blood reference, for those who don't know. trying to find the if there's someone that looks like a cultist that's sparked that off, then who knows. Can't see, but could be. Alright. Anyways, let's go ahead and Brother Cactiel says, I believe the Z-95 is pre-Clones Wars, but just barely. Yeah, it might have actually been just barely pre-Clone Wars, which shows you how long in the tooth it was. Then again, the Naboo Starfighter is an even older design and still gets used as far as the lore is concerned, although I think part of that's because Naboo Security decided to go for quality over quantity, and so they made really, really good, but really, really expensive starfighters.
And that is why they were mostly only on Naboo.
Yeah.
Because no one wanted to fucking pay.
Yeah, they were a really premium starfighter. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue.
Okay. I've made some special modification. She's faster than anything in the sky.
That is a pretty modified Z95. I can already tell because it's got 4 blasters instead of 2 already. So that's a start.
I mean, it is. Yeah, the differences are not that big in this shot, but they are there.
Yeah, they're definitely there.
Oh, I think Scissors is of wedge. Well, Scissori is a beauty. We fly a standard belt attack pattern. Just take your lead from pro. Alright, roll squadron. Punch it!
Let me read some comment here. Linus King says, reminds me of a line from a classic military song. Here's to the regular Air Force. They have such a brilliant plan. They send in the goddamn reservists whenever the shit hits the fan. I think that's your character, so...
Okay. What are these guys doing here? Shah!
Nern!
Now they've done it. Come on, you both worms. Take a shot at me.
Ren, what are you doing?
That's right. Get with your hands.
Whew. He took out a TIE fighter with a blaster. To be fair, it is a TIE fighter, and we've already explored in the past just how badly made TIE fighters are, so...
Man, they are flying coffins sometimes.
The only thing on the TIE fighter that's, from what I understand, is actually half decent is the ejection seat.
And it is widely used.
Wait. It doesn't look like it was actually taken out by him. It looks like it was taken out by an X-Wing. Okay. To be fair, I would absolutely buy a TIE fighter getting taken down by a blaster, though. It's a TIE fighter, after all. Anyways, let's continue.
I mean, a Wookiee took one down with a branch. I still remember. Granted, it was a Wookiee, but it was still a branch.
Yeah. Willis King says, wait, the Empire gave them ejector seats? Yes, they did.
Surprising, right?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even give them a life support system in the TIE fighter, so...
I mean, how much worse? I mean, how much cheaper can it be to make a life support in every pilot suit instead of the fighter?
Well, the thing is, even with the Rebel Alliance, they have special life support suits on the pilots in those as well. The thing is, though, the Rebel Alliance didn't actually cheap out, and so the reason why their helmets are open is in the lore they have special shielding to keep the atmosphere in the helmet and in the suit. So the Rebel Alliance has a built-in life support system, and then they gave their pilots additional life support in case something goes wrong and they have to eject. Whereas the TIE fighters, the pilots just get their pilot suit, which has the built-in support system, and that's it.
I understand that, but considering that these ships did not have shielding because they were that cheap, you are not going to have time to eject most of the time.
I mean, I think there's an auto eject function. At least that's at least that's established, at least on some starfighters. So I think there is an auto eject function. It's just that the TIE fighter gets damaged, and sometimes the auto eject will malfunction and not work. Kind of not a good thing.
You don't say.
Yeah. Quillista says, to be fair, TIE fighters are not supposed to travel far from the destroyer. Yeah, that's another thing. Because the battle doctrine, they don't have to be far away from the Star Destroyer, so if the pilot ejects, then yeah, the suit might not last very long as far as its life support is concerned, but that should still be plenty of time for them to be picked back up.
Well, yeah, that's true. Stay here. I like the TIE Fighter because I like it. It is cool, but I will never pilot one.
Winter's King says, standard TIE fighters didn't have hyperdrive either. It's cheaper to move them via carrier. Yeah, that's another thing, of course. You'd have to look at something like the TIE Advanced for a TIE fighter, for a TIE design. Something like that for a TIE design that actually has a hyperdrive built in. I think... Then again, there's even cheaper designs, I think, like the TIE D series, where they just use droids instead, so they didn't even have to worry about a life support system for the pilot or what was the other thing I was thinking of? Basically, they created droid variants of the TIE called the TIE D later on as well.
Well, at least that is a mass-produced piece of shit.
Yeah. Though, to be fair, there is some advantage you could argue. Like, for example, the fact that a droid wouldn't have to worry anywhere near as much about G-forces than a pilot, so there is that. But, yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and let's see. Okay, so let's read some more of the comments here. Brother Cackle says the Z95 entered production during the war, but it also that it was outdated already by then. That's weird. You would think maybe it's because the Z95 was meant to be more of a budget. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, this is what you mean when you say they were born old already.
But I don't. But it's news to me, the Z95 being outdated when they were built. Let me check something here because maybe that's established in Disney lore and different from the EU lore or something. Let me check because that has me really curious. Because if that's the case, then why on earth are they still using the darn things? Like, I know there's one starfighter that's crap specifically because it was made to be 100% legal as far as the Empire is concerned, and it was just god-awful because of it. Let me check. Okay, so that is the... No, that does actually appear to be the EU lore, that they were actually outdated by the time they were made. And also in the Disney canon, apparently. That's weird. Maybe it is. Let me double check something. Maybe... Okay. Oh, wait. No, that was the Disney canon. That was the Disney canon.
Yeah, because...
Considered... Okay, so here's the EU lore for comparison. And I quote... Considered one of the most capable fighters of its day, it boasted a distinctive bubble canopy and a set of triple blasters mounted at the end of each of its two variable geometry wings. Later versions dispensed with swing wings and bubble canopy in favor of more precise maneuvering, thrusters, and canopy instrumentation. So, basically, the Disney canon did a 180 on the actual original lore. So it was actually considered a pretty good fighter during its time. It's just that it was. It also says. So it was actually considered a pretty much top-of-the-line fighter in the EU lore, but it's also considered outdated in the Disney canon at the time that it was made.
Of course. By the way, I think you are cutting out a bit from time to time.
Sorry. So what I was saying is it was up. The Disney canon says it's obsolete when it entered production. But the EU lore says it was pretty much top of the line when it first came out, so yeah. Calista says, to be fair, TIE fighters are not supposed to travel. Yeah, okay, I read that. Didn't mean to write. That's okay. Standard TIE fighters in. Yeah, okay. Calista says, choose your side, TIE fighters or X-Wing. Ace, do a poll. Maybe I should, actually. What is King says, weren't the CIS basically dominating space battles because droids are typically better pilots? Thought there was lore about that. You know, from what I recall, well, first of all, the Republic focused on had some really weird designs as well. Like that, the ARX-1 something or other. That thing, which was also a predecessor to the X-Wing, but massive and a 3-man crew. There was that thing that a lot of people know about that's kind of weird. Even then, though, the droids were known, if I remember correctly, for being predictable and what have you, so even then, clones had advantages in the space battles.
The Vulture droids did
the ARC-170, love that one. Yeah, I actually kind of like the ARC-170 as well, but it does seem like it would be a design that would be a little bit awkward to use as well, from a tactical standpoint. Brother Kakko also says V-Wing a predecessor to the... I didn't realize the V-Wing was a predecessor to the TIE Fighter. That's interesting. Kulesa says, I'm not so deep in the Star Wars lore, but X-Wing seem to be the type of spacecraft that can travel to other planets because the rebels may need to relocate often. That is part of it. Another part is so they don't have to risk their capital ships in raids. They can launch from a good distance away from the capital ship, go to another system, make a quick little raid there, do damage, return, and finish whatever hit-and-run objective they did without the Empire potentially ambushing a capital ship. And, well, with the Rebels having superior starfighters, and also with Imperial Star Destroyers, a lot of them anyways, being more specialized towards ship-to-ship engagements, that is, and capital ship engagements, basically the Rebel Alliance was playing to its strengths as well with the X-Wing there. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue.
Alright, I think this is mine. Another stun like that in Ren, and you'll be rounded till you tilt Martin. Now get some cover. Yes, sir, Captain Antel, yes, sir.
Riel, get out of there! You've got 2 on your tail!
Not to worry, my princess. I have them right when I want them.
He has rear-firing blasters, doesn't he? No, he just hit the brakes.
I think this will destroy a lot of people. But it is still fun.
Yeah, this is fun.
Okay. For the pride of A2. Wow. However, it seems that the C-95 has got to put a Silurian star in that crate.
We gotta get somebody on their flank, Jansen. We're getting pounded.
Looks like you got your wish, Abby.
Liberation!
Oh no!
Let me read some comments here real quick. Winners King says, basically the two different designs were based on different paddle doctrines. Yep. Coolessa says, Ace do a reaction to the EA Star Wars TM Squadron cinematics trailer later. If it's possible, that cinematic is one of the best modern Star Wars related media in recent memory. Okay. I'm so mad the game is nothing like that. I know it not made by EA. Maybe they add. Okay. Brother Calcul says, Murica.
Fuck yeah. Well, shall we go on?
Yep.
Okay. Looks like the imps are breaking off, people. Jason, we can't land in that mech. Can you guys get out on your own? Yeah, the imps are heading to the dead swamp. We should be able to get back alright.
I think we've provided some people. I think we've got some people to thank first. Welcome, I am Sergeant Ashad of the People's Liberation Battalion.
Lieutenant West Jason. Pleased to meet you. Usually say it or hi.
From the looks of those X-Wings, I would say you're with the Rebel Alliance, correct?
Well, yes.
Wonderful. An enemy of the Empire is an enemy of ours. Come, our camp is nearby. My commander will wish to have a word with you.
That was some flying competition, Vernon. I thought those Ivers had you called.
I think he'd give you a run. I think he'd even give you a run, Plur. I mean, Princess is Plur de Cartha.
What a name! What a name!
Yep.
I was only performing my work and princess.
Come now, Count Pernan. Your skill in flight does the throne proud.
You honor me, please.
Oh, come on. Stop it, Rael. I mean, they are cousins, so I would be so cringing up to that is a perfectly reasonable reaction for more ways than one. Gillessa says, get to the X-Wang. Do it now. My lady, on behalf of the Premaster, I wish to extend my congratulations on your victory over the invaders. Ah, thank you, Count. Laban, Count Aryan Laban, at your service. My princess, the Premaster, wishes to honor you and your comrades with a formal supper this evening.
We will be honored. This guy sounds like a traitor already. Used to me.
Coolessa says his face be like, wow, what now, bitch? I give him a simp card. Alright. Here we are. You now stand on the free soil of the People's Liberation Battalion. Soon my comrades will be an end. Soon, my comrades, there'll be an end to want, an end to hunger of both the belly and spirit. So this faction is very clearly Hungry Santa approved. Soon, comrades, will come the fall of the nobles and their alliance with the Imperials. Soon all of Iatu will be the land of freemen.
Sounds a bit anarchist to me.
Haran, liberation! Haran, liberation! Come, Haran, Come, Haran will want to meet with you. Comrade Haran, this is Lieutenant Jansen of Rebel Alliance, and his crewmate of Rogue Squadron. Welcome, friends, welcome to Freeland.
Thank you, sir. It is an honor.
You are welcome to eat with us. We have plenty of the best food, drink, and credits the Empire has to offer. He's quite a leader.
A leader with beautiful eyes.
As soon as our other patrols report in, I will lead you back to the city. But for now, good food and fine song. Tell me, Lieutenant Jansen, what can you tell me of my darling sister? So it's his... So this is the noble that's in charge of it, which is her brother.
And there might be a fight incoming, depending on if he wants to talk or just dismantle the thing.
Brother Calcul says, these aren't Americans, these are cammies. And Winter's King says, I smell communism. Democracy is non-negotiable. Kulissa says, ah yes, a guerrilla fighter who's have so much campfires, the enemy can see them from space. Big smart. Well, what do you expect from people who don't work for a living?
Oh, that stinks.
Winter's King says the prince turned Che Guevara out in the woods. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
As I have... Alright, so let me... I think this is the one count here that's in charge that I was voicing. As I have said, I have a vision of Yato that differs from that of the Grand Dukes. I return to the grand days, return to the glory that was once Yato. And Yato returned to simpler times, when the common folk worked the lands of the nobles. I'm sure the common folk can't wait. How I long for the days of our fathers, when the simple folk of Yato knew the purpose for which they lived. Thank you, Count Laban, for that breathtaking speech. Noblemen of Yato. I see the future of Yato as cold, dark, and hateful. A future where the good people of Yato are poisoned by the hypocrisy of the noble class.
What?
What? A poison that has a sweet scent but is deadly to the taste. Uh-oh.
It's all my fucking... It's pure da carta, please.
Gentlemen, Yato will not drink this poison. Have a care, princess, for without the Priamsta, you have no hope of defeating the People's Liberation Battalion. Calm yourself, Laban. The tyranny of the nobles is at an end, Laban. I will see to that. If you wish a place in the future of Yato, either stand with the throne or fall. Krish. The choice is yours.
Stand or fall. Well, that could have gone better.
I mean... So far we have actual feudalists on one hand and what appears to be Marxists on the other. This place is screwed.
Yeah, normally you'll say, there could be some middle ground. Here the middle ground is on fire.
Brother Calcul says, play the silly music.
Well, let's, I think this, yes, right? I don't know if this was such a good idea, Hobby. I can reach the wedge on the comment to reporting.
Take it easy, Wes. We'll camp here tonight and head for the city in the morning. Besides, we came out here for some R&R, and that's what we're getting, right? Yeah, at least Eddie's Wedge. Our Rogue Squadron never had it so good. I'm sure Wedge and Tycho are having a fine time sleeping in the palace.
Sergeant Assad, we haven't been joining us for a drink.
Our great leader has got... Great leader?
Oh my god.
Our great
They are,
Sorry.
they are playing all the stereotypes, right?
Winter's King says, okay, so who do we vote for? The commie prince, the autocratic princess, or the treacherous nobles? Jackson says, greetings, what did I miss? Things got really weird and interesting in this comic so far.
Emphasis on weird, in some cases.
So, yeah. Brother Calculus says, or glorious Kim Jong-un. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for Star Wars. Aura says, I vote Princess ironic because monarchy. I mean, at this point, well, I'm going to have to say a hard no to communism, so I'm also going to say a hard no to feudalism, so of those choices,
There is only one, man.
of those choices, the princess seems to have the one with the best ideas. Winter's King says we're doing a space Korean War. At least the U.S. wasn't feudalistic. I mean, granted, the South Korea at the time wasn't exactly much of a democracy during the Korean War. They wouldn't really become a democracy really till about the 80s, but still. Even then, South Korea seems like it would have been the lesser of two evils than North Korea. So, to be fair, pretty much any regime, with very, very few exceptions, would be the lesser of two evils when compared to North Korea, so...
And that is saying a lot.
Yeah, that is saying a hell of a lot. Jackson says... Brother Calcul says, I vote Pinochet because helicopters. Jackson says, I vote military dictatorship. Winter's King says, the princess wants to end the nobility, so even if it benefits the people, she'll rule as a dictator. Maybe she'll step down and it'll become a republic. Who the fuck knows?
But one thing people tend to forget is that a dictator doesn't have to be a bad person or a bad leader. The only problem is that you don't vote the dictator into power.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's read. Kules has sent me something. Oh no! Oh no!
What the hell?
Okay, I'm gonna have to copy the link and send it to you so you can see it yourself.
Okay, let's see. What the I was expecting anything but this.
At least it's not attached to a spider.
Oh.
Winter's King says, she is, but it still won't be good. Biggest Dickus says, hello, Biggest Dickus. Ironic given what we're looking at right now.
This was perfectly timed.
Yes, it was. Coolesta says, I'm on Pog watching you. Pog, you get the eggplant. DY says, something to note is that Asia was not a relatively prosperous land like colonial-era America. Depends on the region, from what I understand. Like, Japan was fairly modern. I'd say Japan was fairly modern when it comes to that, and I know Siam was busy trying to modernize as well. There's actually a really bizarre story when it comes to Siam during World War I, actually. Jackson says communism is the very definition of failure. Yes, it is. Just look at how many things Marx got wrong in Das Kapital. DY says the first nation in feudalism in Asia did so only in 1911. Immediately had to deal with. Well, I'm pretty sure that the Meiji Restoration was more or less an end to feudalism in Japan, and that occurred much earlier. And what you're talking about is China. There. DY says, democracy didn't come as smoothly in Asia. That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Democracy wasn't for everyone at first.
That is correct. It came pretty Though, to be fair, actually, now that I think about it, are we really going to say that much of Central and South America during the colonial era were, shall we say, democratic? I mean, Brazil, okay, so some of them had technically presidents, but it was very much the strongman era. Brazil itself even stayed as an empire for a good while. So there is that as well. In fact, even Mexico became empire numerous times, at least once or so, if I remember correctly. But I digress. Kulis says, it's never been truly tried, guys. You need to give it to the thousands to work. Okay, so here's a red pill for you. If real communism has never been tried, then why should we ever trust Marxists to ever try to implement real Marxism if it's never been tried? That's an admission that every single Marxist in history was a lying hack who wasn't actually interested in implementing, quote, real Marxism if it's never even been tried.
Not that you need to prove that they were liars.
I know, but that's pretty much an admission whenever you hear a Marxist say that every single Marxist in history is a lying hack and a charlatan. That's just an open admission at that point. If they've had this many times and the Marxists, whenever they get into power, don't even bother trying it.
Because why try it if you know it is going to fail?
Also, how can you call it real Marxism if it's never existed?
I don't know. Bragging rights?
Like, wouldn't real Marxism be the Marxism that we've actually seen throughout the entirety of its existence?
I don't know, man. The only thing I have seen is people dying of hunger.
Yeah, so that's what real communism looks like.
Pretty much.
It's like saying that the Spanish Inquisition weren't real witch hunts because real witch hunts have never been tried because we haven't actually found any real witches yet.
Hey, I have enough pride to know that they were real. Okay, we born a lot of fucking people.
Kulesa says Karl Marx himself literally realized it's a failing ideology at the end of his life. Yeah. Well, maybe, I'm not sure. I'd actually have to look at the source for that, where he came to that realization, but Jackson says communism doesn't exist, it's just a dictatorship in disguise. Well, there is an ideology behind it, I will say that. It's just the ideology is so broken and devoid of any logic whatsoever that it falls apart completely. Windows King says, remember Marxists are like women, they hate others of their kind the most. I mean, that there is a reason why the Marxists and the National Socialists hate each other more than anyone else. So, Brother Kakil says, perfectly salient argument. So, Uros, what's, in your opinion, is the spiciest red pill when it comes to just how disjointed Marxism is as an ideology?
The fact that we are not insects. And let me explain. To be a Marxist means to be equal to each other. for the people to have the means of production and all that, right?
Mm. All right.
Well, how can a species that is very individual, that at least until very recently respected power, ability, and skill above all else, accept that we are all equals in all things?
Well,
That is trying to force a square to be a circle. It is going to be a fight that you are going to lose.
that's
It
why.
is.
That's the thing. The Marxists actually had kind of tried to do something about that because they did realize the fault there. The problem is the fault. Their answer was, well, let's just get rid of individualism as a concept entirely. Let's just pretend individualism does not exist at all.
So you mean that they wanted to cut parts of their own brains because there is no other fucking way?
Let me give you a good example of. There's a book that Karl Marx wrote called, and I am serious about this, On the Jewish Question.
Holy shit!
The book, by the way, is. To say that the book is probably an inspiration for the National Socialists is probably an understatement. I mean, Karl Marx unironically makes the argument, word for fucking word, that Jews in Germany during the 1840s had, quote, Jewish privilege. His own words.
If nothing else, the man was ahead of his time.
But here's the reason, though, why I bring that book up. So, Marx in it, and now granted, by the way, Marx is referring to someone else making the argument about Jewish people have Jewish privilege in Germany during the 1840s. I do need to point out that he was technically quoting someone else, but it is a position that Marx personally supported as well. When he goes on to say, yes, this person is completely correct about that, about his position on it, which is, I'm just going to, and by the way, it's hilarious, by the way, to watch, whenever you bring this up, watch Marxists try to argue that Karl Marx arguing that Jewish people are, that Karl Marx arguing that stereotypes associated with Jewish people are correct is somehow Marx not being anti-Semitic, when it actually is proof of that, pretty much. But the thing is, the reason I bring the book up is because Marx actually argues that individualism, the idea of separating yourself from society as a whole, the right to do that, is just a bourgeoisie concept.
Excuse me?
Yeah, the idea of being able to live on your own and not have to be subservient to society is a bourgeoisie idea. This, by the way, applies to things like consent, which is why whenever you run into a Marxist, you can very easily usually get them into saying some very, very interesting opinions on things like super straight people.
There are things that you have said that makes me wonder how they haven't imploded yet.
Well, wait till you hear some of the stuff from that Engels said. In fact, I know this is turning into a rant, but let me see if I can pull it up. So, Friedrich Engels, Marx's partner in crime, there's a few things that he had said as well. So I might as well put it up here so we can read it. So, Friedrich Engels, one of the books that he wrote was called The Principles of Communism, which was slightly before the Communist Manifesto, and you can actually see there's a lot of inspiration from this to that. But but for hot takes, I want you to, I'm going to have to put a link here so you guys can see just how hilariously awful an idea this is. So here we go. So I am actually using a leftist source. I mean, it's the principles of communism. It's about as leftist as you can get. But Section 7. Would you like to read this for us, or shall I?
Okay, let me. The slave is sold once and for all. The proletarian must sell himself daily and hourly. The individual slave, property of one master, is assured an existence, however miserable it may be, because of the master's interest. The individual proletariat, property, as it were, of the entire bourgeoisie class which buys his labor only when someone has need of it, has no secure existence. This existence is assured only to the class as a whole. The slave is outside competition. The proletariat and experiences all its vagaries. The slave counts as a thing, not as a member of society. Thus, the slave can have a better existence than the proletariat, where the proletarian belongs to a higher stage of social development and himself stands on a higher social level than the slave. The slave frees himself when, of a relation of private property, he abolishes only the relation of slavery and thereby becomes a proletarian. Proletarian can free himself only by abolishing private property in general.
So I want you to. So you read all that, right? So you know how Marxism is fundamentally materialistic. They're focused exclusively on the materialistic side of things, right?
Where the idea is to seize the means of production. So yeah,
They don't care about status or anything, really. So when Engels says, and I quote, "Thus the slave can have a better existence than the proletarian," to use the modern-day social justice lingo, what Engels here is effectively arguing is that slaves in the pre-Civil War U.S. had slave privilege in comparison to the proletariat. Because according to Engels, it's a welfare system for the slave.
it is a fucking horrible thing to say, to be honest. But I expected nothing less.
This is also one of the things I really, really love bringing up whenever Marxists try talking about how morally superior their ideology is. When I then start bringing up that their own ideology argues that slaves in pre-Civil War U.S. had slave privilege, it naturally does not cause a very happy reaction from them.
I mean, to a point, they are arguing that bringing back slavery would be good for some people.
I mean, you could actually technically make the argument that that pretty much is what Marxism is to some degrees, because if your labor is part of the means of production and your labor is seized by the community as a whole, then then that means that you are forced to work for the society as a whole.
Which is not exactly a lie when it comes to communism. You might have a degree in whatever you want. You might want to pursue certain type of jobs. But if you are in a communist society and they say, back to the mines.
Back to the mines you go.
You don't have much of a say.
Alright, we got a reaction here. Oh.
Excuse me. What the fuck?
Is it horrible?
It's not really. It's just a reaction of sorts. It's that particular classic meme. But the point, okay, so let me read some of the comments. Jackson says, how did we get from Star Wars to Karl Marxism? Because, well, we have this faction here, the People's Liberation Battalion, are basically Marxists, as far as I can tell so far.
Yes. You know, learning some things is not always good.
Mm.
Because, holy shit.
Biggest Dick has said certain group rules. Disavow.
Well, I know no. To a point. Why? I cannot say it in English, I think. But how was it?
Yeah.
Everyone matters, with some matter more than others. So some I don't know how it was now. Fuck. So
Winter's King says not all of wisdom brings joy. That is correct to some degrees, most certainly. Still, better to be knowledgeable of it than oblivious and get a rude awakening.
yeah, but sometimes more knowledge just makes you sadder.
I don't know. I think I'd still be happier right now than a Marxist who finally gets their utopia, only to then be made to face the wall.
Well, making that wall had cost sacrifices, and you are just going to be another stepping stone.
Alright, so let's go ahead and continue on. I'll pick up where I left off. Our great leader has gone on reconnaissance. He should return by daybreak to lead you back to the city. See, we'll leave by first light. Have a drink.
Okay, I guess you're right.
1, 2, 3. To
To
the good life.
good life. Yeah. Okay, another woman. Do I try?
Yeah.
Okay. They are trained to resist. Don't you agree?
I think that's your character.
Wasn't this the Plurist brother?
Maybe, actually, now that you mention it. It is easy to resist when you believe in your cause and know nothing of interest.
A tribute to the man who inspires and controls them.
Why, thank you. You flatter me.
Comrade, told him nothing. I did not betray the cause.
Shh. I know. You have done well, comrade. I've come to send you home, back to the people. Just relax, comrade. I'm going to set you free. Crack! You are free, comrade.
Oh my god! Seriously, did no one see this coming?
What's that? A Marxist betrays their fellow Marxists?
For power?
It must be a day that ends in Y. Winter's King says, oh, it is better to know Ace, but that doesn't mean it's bittersweet. DY says, I hate that phrase. Winter's King says, the great leader went out scouting alone. I don't see a coup incoming. What phrase? Lol. The wall, sir, says Calculate. Yep.
Well, we were talking about that, and lo and behold.
It gets even better. Well, let's continue.
Okay. I do know a man who enjoys working with son.
If one is to rule, one must not shy from difficult duty.
Then soon you shall rule it all. And no one, not my empire, the alliance, the Priamsta, or your sister can stop us.
So him snapping a dude's neck turns her on. Are we sure that Padme didn't give birth to triplets and she's one of them?
I don't know, man, but holy fucking shit, this last page.
Is this the end? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Winter's King says, lol, the noble is playing both sides. I love it. Communism is always a Trojan horse for the nobles to gain even more power. You know,
He is not wrong.
there was, you know what's hilarious is that there's one variation of socialism that actually says that. I'm not going to say which one.
Oh, Lord. Seriously, as soon as it was stated that this was basically a communist movement, it was obvious that someone was going to do something either horribly scummy or just a power play.
Yep.
And lo and behold, it is both.
This guy is basically what you get if Vosh was a brunette. Speaking of, I've actually been considering doing a video on that, doing a video poking fun at Vosh because there's a debate he had that was where he basically revealed something rather amusing if you've actually read any far leftist literature. So I've been thinking of making a video on how Vosh basically outed himself as something. Well, Vosh has outed himself as many things, but this is one more thing.
I am going to admit that I try to be informed, but there are some things that I just cannot stomach.
Fair enough. Winter's King says, nah, no woman would ever go near Vosh. You're right. This woman does not look like a land whale, which is what Vosh dates. Brother Kakil says, is it the national variety? Maybe. Actually, yes it is, to be honest. So yeah, that's the thing. The National Socialists argued that the Bolsheviks were capitalists, but not just but that's the thing also. When the National Socialists accuse someone of capitalism, they also accuse them of being a certain ethnicity. An ethnicity they think is the racial embodiment of capitalism. You can probably guess which one I'm talking about.
Indeed.
So they basically thought that the Marxists were all charlatan capitalists trying to gain more power using this ploy. Using Marxism as a ploy. That was basically basis of their entire ideology, more or less.
It hardly matters. Every time we have a communist system, we all know how it is going to end.
Brother Cackle says, the only action Vosh gets is horse wee-wee. DY says, what you sell out I call winning. I'm here to win as a socialist, not to lose as a socialist. Principal defeat means dog shit. Yeah! I think the spiciest quote from Vosh was the time that he tried to say that everything is all power grabs. And then, well, you heard about that one, right?
Not ringing any bells right now.
Oh dear. So
oh my.
So basically, Vosh. Vosh was in a debate, and he said that all of history is just power grabs. Everything in history that has ever existed is just power grabs. And the guy debating him is just stunned at this and goes, "Wow, math is all power grabs, huh?" And Vosh goes, "Yes."
Excuse me?
The history about whether or not that... And then the guy that he's talking to says, and I'm going to paraphrase, the history about whether or not that really bad thing that happened during World War II happened is just a power grab, according to you. And Vosh goes, yes!
Is he insane? Or just stupid?
I think he's a little bit of both, but...
Stupidly insane?
Yes. Brother Calcul says, I assume we have all seen Doomer Politics video is Vosh unironically evil. Yeah, I've seen that, and he does actually show that there. I've also did a little meme up meme on it myself before that video ever got made, because, wow!
I think I need to see a few more videos, it seems.
Yeah, that one, and also, Teak History has some really good videos on basically how Marxism and just socialism in general works, and that is... He's got one about the National Socialists, how the National Socialists were actually socialists, and it is a 5-hour video where he just goes through source after source after source. So that is a really good one.
Or is it? Well, that is dedication to.
Yeah. Brother Cackle says, so I've already read that. Glenn says, Ace, you need to check the TF2 AI politics meme. It's a parody of all ideologies. Okay. Brother Cackle says, well, since capitalism equals good, we must logically conclude that whoever the synchronicity is equals good. I mean... Well, we could say that, but I'm not going to pick favorites. But anyways, so yeah, this turned into as much a political live stream as it did a comic book one.
I think of the hour and a half that this has been going on, close to at least half has been us derailing the conversation somehow.
Yeah. Brother Cackle says, remember that video is now on SFO's channel? Yep. Since Doomer is leaving. Also, yes, I've seen the Teak video. Yep. Winter's King says, Teak's history videos are amazing, best sources in so much depth. Yes, he has. Biggest Sticker says, evil mustache man. Oh! I mean, he tried to implement socialism, so that's something that's pretty wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, just for the sake of it, I do need to mention this. The other thing, the big thing that he did wrong, the other really big thing that he did wrong was built entirely upon his ideology of socialism, because he believed that the certain group of people that he was persecuting had privilege. And because they had privilege, as far as he was concerned, evil mustache man believed he was punching up when he did all these horrible things that he did.
You know,
there's a reason why there's a reason why he actually made a speech, I think it was in 1920, titled "Talking About Social Justice." His own words, by the way.
Wow. Seriously?
And it explains why. And the speech is yes. Go look at the speech is mostly lost, but he does talk about social justice in it. And he calls, the speech is, I think it's quoted as being, why socialists are anti-Semitic.
Well, that is an interesting thing to know now.
Yeah. Adi, get the helicopter too, says Brother Cackle. Yep. But yeah, if you ever have to debate a socialist, and you'll know because you've run into a socialist, and obviously they'll want to debate, start bringing up facts like that about how their ideology actually is, and watch them get really triggered really quickly.
Oh, I know. Believe me. My mother likes communism. We have a few debates.
Winter's King says Mussolini gave us triumphant speech to the Italian people, promising a new era of social justice. Biggest Dicka says, if he's evil, then why are the liberals following in his steps? Well, isn't that a statement about the morality of the far left in general?
It's not a statement. It is public knowledge.
Yes, it is. Jedi Dick Sensei says, geology isn't a real science. DY says, one of the things with socialism is that everyone can call themselves the proletarian once, if needed, enough mental gymnastics are applied. Hence why Bernie Sanders, the millionaire, is still seen as proletariat by these people. Also, hence why Karl Marx, by the way, is seen as proletariat or middle class, even though he married into nobility and hung out with his buddy Engels, who was a factory owner.
Then who is the bourgeoisie? There is no one that fits that category. Millionaires and whatever else can be the proletariat.
All right, so here's but actually there is a bit of a red pill I should drop about what is constituted as proletariat, because Marx does actually define proletariat in, I think it was the Communist Manifesto, if I remember correctly. Or it's either that or the Principles of Communism. It was one of the two. But basically, the proletariat do not own property of any sort. Now, this is even when they make the distinction, that false distinction of personal and private property, as if there is much of a distinction there. But the point I'm getting at is, they say that the proletariat do not own property. If you own property, you're automatically a petty bourgeoisie at bare minimum. But the point I'm getting at is, for a start, that means that if you're a homeowner, you're automatically not proletariat at all. If you own a house, you're not proletariat. And given that the proletariat are defined as not owning means of production, well, consider this, or not able to access or acquire means of production. Consider this. How cheap are 3D printers these days? A few $100 for a cheap one, right? So
mostly anyone can get one.
Which means that most anyone has access to acquire means of production, meaning that the vast majority of people aren't proletariat anymore, by Marxist definition.
Yes.
So we're at the point now where the proletariat is effectively a myth as a concept, because of how it's been defined.
If we consider these short videos, the ones that are at best 1 minute long, that anyone can record on their phone and get money that way, doesn't that mean that even the poorest people can technically make money by any means, meaning that there is no proletariat, no attack?
That is a good example. Hell, if you really wanted to get technical, someone selling lemonade or mowing lawns is still technically running their own business. Now, whether or not they make enough money to live off of that can be absolutely up for debate, but that can also be that could be debated with regards to any business. There's a reason why even video game companies and stuff like that can fail as well. Look at the collapse of 3DO for one example. That company didn't exactly make enough to sustain itself. So the point I'm getting at is, technically, if you're able to make your own business, you're automatically proletariat. Technically speaking. Which means that proletariat is basically a myth. The only people that would actually be proletariat are people that cannot really work at all. Because they can't set up their own business at all. And they also can't really... it really is narrow. It's really a narrow definition when you actually think about it. But yeah.
So the only means to have, and not exactly in a complete way, a communist society will be to have at least one person, that owns everything and at best loans it to the poor people, and instead of giving them money or a place for them to own, they are just given food and the basic necessities.
Pretty much.
So what I said about slavery is not wrong.
But only if you put it to the point where you use the actual Marxist definition of proletariat. If you actually use what the Marxists mostly define as proletariat, which is anyone that isn't filthy rich. I mean, these people think Bernie Sanders is proletariat. Again.
But then they are not using their power to enact communism. They are just pretending.
Notice how that seems to be... Yeah, hence why every single time that Marxists have ever gotten power, according to their own reasoning, they have never tried real socialism. Because apparently... I mean, that actually brings up another question. If real Marxism has never been tried whenever Marxists got into power, then doesn't that mean that real Marxists as a ideology does not exist either, really?
It cannot.
Because they're not even trying to implement their so-called utopia. But I digress. Linus King says, makes it look like the effort to make his own nothing be happy is really a Marxist effort to create a proletariat, since it has effectively ceased to exist. Yeah, really makes you think, doesn't it? Biggest Dick says, bro, my country banned 3D printers because it apparently can make firearms from them. I mean, you can. You can also make them from just regular pipes and what have you, although I'm not going to get into too much detail because, let's be honest, YouTube does not like that.
Yeah, you can make pipe guns, potato guns. They aren't exactly the most effective, but hey, you can make weapons.
DY says, I think by this point one becomes a socialist ideal of proletariat by choice. Solon says, great, something. Own nothing, eat bugs, do not question.
Yeah. By the way, I was joking when I said that this was 1 hour and a half. We have reached that point.
Yeah, we have. All right, so ultimately, let's get back to the comic itself. I know we've kind of drifted away from it for a while.
A lot.
So, anyways, ultimately, what is your thoughts on this particular comic book series, Uros?
Well, from the last few comics, this particular story is... it has taken a few turns that I was not expecting, like the Alabama turn. But, I mean, it is expanding the characters, the story is nice. Mm-hmm. There are a few things that were expected, like this communist turn down at the end. But I think it is good, and I would recommend people to read the whole why cannot I speak? The Red Squadron. Raw Squadron. Excuse me.
That's serious. Okay. But yeah, I actually like this series as well. It is taking interesting turns, but then it keeps surprising us as well in addition to that. So, I will say this. This is a good comic book series so far, and it is one I can thoroughly recommend. Brother Kakil says, real Christianity has never been tried. Real Judaism has never been tried. Real Islam has never been tried. It's a...
Basically.
It's a no true Scotsman argument is what it is.
Well, the only thing I was going to point out is that unless you dislike a little bit of politics, this comic is very good. And even then, it is entertaining.
I agree. This is still an easy recommendation as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, it is head and shoulders above anything Disney has made recently, of course.
Well, that's not a very tall bar to jump over.
Yeah, I know. It is not a... The bar is very, very low in that regard, but this is still a legitimately good comic, and hey, it adds more character and development to... There's a reason why Rogue Squadron has become popular, and this, I think, is a good part of it. So,
let's see what happens in number 15 next week.
Yeah. Cool S says, okay, so let's see what Cool S has sent me now. I'll probably get claimed on this, but I'll have to watch it later on, I think. But I can already tell it's something that's going to be special, I think. I'll send you the link as well, Urus. Here we go.
Most of the things that could send you is special. I will watch it later.
Alright, so I think now is a good time to go ahead and call it. We've been at it for an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah, this comic is definitely worth recommending. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. Of course, I plan on still reading Empire in between this, so I think it'll be the week after next week. But yeah. Alright, so like I said, I think now's a good time to go ahead and call it. So yeah, this has been Ace.
And this has been Euros.
And we both hope to see you again soon. Until then, take care. Ace out.